All right, UFC London, Evloev versus Murphy. Full card recap. A little bewildered right now. I don't really understand what happened in the main event. I don't really understand the decision, but I'll break it down real quick. I don't have any notes, so I'll just start from the top. The main event, Evloev versus Murphy. Weird fight. My theory is that Evloev was told, or at least he believed, he wasn't going to get a title shot if he was going to get booed or if he had a really bad fight. And he kind of knew if he was going to wrestle all the time, it was going to be boring, he was going to get booed. So it would, risk him not getting the title shot if he won this. But I really don't think that fight was entertaining enough for him to guarantee a title shot, especially with the way the UFC has been acting in the featherweight division. I think it'd be funny if they just gave the title shot to Diego Lopez again. But I think, honestly, I don't really care if they give it to Gene Silva or Evloev. Pretty weird fight. The decision is the weird thing for me. So, first round was close, tit for tat on the feet, but I thought Murphy did much better damage with sort of the attritive strikes like leg kicks and body kicks, especially body kicks. He landed a pretty good teep to the body, a couple. Evloev landed a good front kick to the body too, but that was basically the only hard strike he landed in the first round. And Murphy was up, I think, 7 or 8 strikes in the round, so I thought it was pretty clear for him. Round 2, kind of a similar story. A little bit closer on the numbers, but all of the big shots were landed by Lerone Murphy. And Evloev didn't shoot a single takedown for the first 2 rounds. The third round, I thought it was close until the end where I thought Evloev basically solidified it. At the beginning, he got hurt, I don't know, he landed a kick on Murphy and kind of entered into the pocket, and Murphy landed a good knee on him, and Evloev just shot the takedown. It got the takedown, and then as soon as Murphy wrestled up to his feet, Evloev broke. He didn't do what he normally does, where he goes to, take the back and do sweeps in the back, which is what he did in rounds 4 and 5. Yeah, and then it was more tit for tat and stuff. Maybe Murphy had a slight edge on the feet for the rest of the round, and then with about 10 seconds left, Evloev cracked him, maybe hurt him. Murphy seemed pretty cogent. He didn't seem like he was hurt, and he's kind of chinny, so I feel like if he got cracked legit, we could tell. But I gave the round to Evloev pretty clearly. I mean, it was pretty close. He got the takedown. He had some control, landed some ground and pound, and got a big moment at the end. I'll give it the round to him. Round 4, kind of the same thing, but I think it was in round 2. Evloev went for a low kick and landed on the cup, and the ref didn't stop in, but Murphy did acknowledge it. He said to the ref, hey, that was a low kick. They both kind of dapped each other up. So there was one low blow there. Round 3, I think there was another one that was kind of cuffing, but it was definitely a low blow. And then round 4, Evloev throws a inside low kick as Murphy goes to step in, take a punch, and he just gets kicked right on the cup, and Goddard takes a point. I think it's a fair point take. A lot of people were saying that it was kind of bullshit because they usually give people 2 fouls, and the first foul wasn't that egregious. The last one, or the first foul wasn't the first one that stopped the fight. Not the actual first low blow, because I think a lot of people missed the first one. But I would say the second one, which is the one where they stopped the fight the first time, wasn't that egregious, and the third one was egregious. But if you only see the second and third, you might think, the UFC's not going to take a point, and they do, which was weird. And in my head, that basically solidified that Evloev couldn't win the fight unless he got a finish or a 10-8, because he lost the first 2 rounds pretty clearly. I would say even very clearly, in my opinion. I would say round 3 was closer for Murphy than round 1 was for Evloev, just because he didn't do anything, and he got outlanded by a decent amount of strikes. Round 4, clearly Evloev, he started grappling later in the round, especially after low blow. It seemed like he needed to get urgent and guarantee the fight. And then in round 5, more of the same, just more grappling, good control. He had some sweeps. Murphy had some moments on the feet, cracked him a couple times, but the main thing that blew my mind about this fight, other than the decision, was why did they both look so bad? In the first round, especially in the first round, Evloev was backing Murphy up to the cage. I get the not shooting, I don't get it, I think it's dumb, but not shooting takedowns, maybe he's doing that for some legitimate reason, but on the feet he looked horrible. He threw probably 15 spinning back fists that missed. He threw a bunch of bad punches. He was super slow, super sloppy. His kicks were super slow and telegraphed. Some of them even landed good, which is just another knock on Murphy. But the main thing I thought was weird was Evloev would back Murphy up to the fence, not shoot a takedown, and then throw a really bad strike, and Murphy wouldn't punish it at all. He did miss a couple, counter shots, but for a guy that knocked out Aaron Pico with a reactive counter, for a guy that knocked out Makwan Amirite with a reactive timed knee on a double leg, he had no urgency. He had no technical ability when it came to timing. He just looked horrible, and it was just a terrible performance by both fighters, in my opinion. And the decision just put the icing on the cake. I thought maybe with the way they took the point and the way the rounds are scored, I'm like, oh, they're trying to get this fight, they're rigging this fight to be a draw so they can justify not giving one of them a title shot. And honestly, it should have been a draw, and they shouldn't either get a title shot. I don't think either of them earned it. Evloev is continuing a streak of anytime he fights someone good, he can't prove that he's the better fighter. Against Allen, it seemed like they were both pretty equal. Allen, I thought, had a slight edge. Aljo, similar thing. That fight's a little closer, but I don't know. Just a bad fight. And the whole card, like, not very good. Next fight on the card was Luke Riley versus Michael Aswell. It was okay. They both seemed pretty low level. Luke Riley seemed pretty quick and snappy with his punches, but he didn't move his head at all, and he kept his chin in the air. He looked a lot like Paddy Pimblett, which sucks because I swear, like 2 fights ago in Cage Warriors, he looked so much better. I don't know if it's a weight class thing or what. I don't know. But he just looked timid and weak, and he had some openings. Like, he started landing the jab to the body and then opened up the left hook up top, and then he just wouldn't go to it. And then at the end of the third round, he started going for that left hook and was landing at will. And just a lot of things like, what's his name? Aswell doesn't move his head at all. So Luke Riley would move in, throw a punch, and then Aswell knew he couldn't slip the punch, so he would just back up to move out of the way of the counter or the follow-up strikes, and Luke Riley wouldn't do anything. He would just miss. He would fall short. So instead of double jabbing to get inside, or throwing a cross and then switching stances to like clear distance, he would just throw a jab 2, and the jab would land on the guard, and the 2 would completely miss because Aswell's a full step away. So just really bad fight IQ again. Like, both of them fought like shit. Luke Riley was fine. He looked good. He had good hands, but he didn't kick at all, which is weird because Aswell was keeping his hands high, unless he saw the lead hand. So he could have kicked the body at will. He could have done low kicks at will. He wasn't at. He didn't look great in the grappling. He was, held up against the cage for a lot of the first and second round, getting kneed in the thigh and stuff. But just not a very good look. And I think he could have looked a lot better just by a couple little like if he just threw a couple shifts like Abdul Karim El Salati was doing, where he just throws a cross, switches into a 1-2, he would have knocked out Aswell in the first or second round for sure. So, and then if you started going for the low kick off, the left hook off of kicks, or backing up into it like JDM did against the Rodriguez guy, I don't know. There's a lot of things he could have done to improve. And he didn't move his head a lot. He didn't keep his hands up, which makes you worried that he's going to fight someone like Balaji Aki, who's got some good power, or like Emmanuel. So just someone who's got power is going to just drop him and chin him eventually. So yeah. Next on the card, Michael Venom Page versus Sam Patterson. One of the worst fights in UFC history. I knew this would happen. I knew it'd be boring. You can go off my prediction. I talked about how MVP was going to win a boring decision. Now, I did think at the beginning of the fight that MVP might get a finish, because generally, since he's been in the UFC, he's fought in the back foot every single fight. And in this fight, he opened up the first few minutes. He was on the front foot, but it didn't matter because he didn't throw a strike until the 3rd minute of the fight. The clock read 2 something before he threw a strike. And in the first 270 seconds, so the first 4.5 minutes, he threw 2 strikes. One of them missed. It was a side kick to the body that missed, or like people called it a T, but the commentator did. It was a side kick. I guess it's kind of hard for him not to throw a side kick because he's got such a bladed stance. But and then the other one was an arm punch. He literally he backed up Sam Patterson in the cage. He feinted. He got a little bit too close with his shoulders, and he just lifted his right hand in the air and didn't use his hips, didn't use his shoulders, didn't use his torso at all. He just threw a punch. It connected on Sam Patterson's chin with no power. That was all he landed in the first 270 seconds of the fight. That is crazy. William Knight against Marcin Prashnyan, one of the worst performances in UFC history. By William Knight. He had one of the lowest output fights ever, and he landed more than fucking MVP did, who won the fight. Which, by the way, the decision, I'll be honest, I stopped watching after the first round. I had it on the second monitor. I was watching YouTube. I was scrolling through Twitter. Wasn't paying that close attention. I watched the second half of the 3rd round, and I saw what other people said about the fight. How did MVP win the 3rd round? 30-27? I don't know. God, I still can't believe they gave that to Evloev. He can't. That's exactly what I said would happen, though. I said that Evloev wins close fights he shouldn't win, based on the fact that judges like his style. So I was right, actually. Matter of fact, speaking of my predictions, I went 11-2 on the card. Pretty good look. 13 fights. I only got 2 wrong, I think. So 11-2. I should have got the last one wrong. Should have been a draw. So it should have been 11-2-1 or 10-2-1. But decent predictions. Next fight was Barniewski versus Lane. Basically, what we thought was going to happen. Austin Lane didn't even get the time to shoot a takedown. He just wasn't super switched on the feet. Barniewski, threw a couple kicks or whatever, did some back and forth stuff early on, and then Barniewski's like, fuck it, I'm gonna knock him out. He threw a couple big hooks, and then got on the inside and threw a tight left hook, and Lane went down, and then he went out to ground and pound, and then complained about the stoppage, which is funny. another funny thing about the fight, Bisping said, and he did it within 15 seconds. And it was 30 seconds into the fight. So he just completely made that up. Bisping was on a... I barely listen to the commentary at all. I mainly listen to music or watching YouTube or something. But oh my God, the commentary, every time I would listen to it was so bad. Bisping was just glazing MVP. He was glazing Lerone Murphy. He was glazing Mazur Evloev. He was glazing fucking Barniewski, I guess, by saying that it was in... He just wasn't paying attention. I think he gets in like sort of an element when he's in London where he's like, you know, it's all about him and he's not really paying attention to the fights. Or I just hate Bisping. I think he's just a shit commentator in general. I don't know. Next fight, Christian Leroy Duncan versus Rome Dolidze. Again, just another like really low fight IQ makes a bad fight when it should be an easy finish. Yeah, Christian Leroy Duncan had a clear advantage pretty much everywhere other than the couple moments in the grappling. The first round, I don't exactly remember. What happened was CLD was winning on the feet, and then Roman Dolidze shot a bad takedown and dropped from a single leg to a sort of a leg entanglement, and then CLD kind of panicked, so he like jumped out, and then he fell, landed on his butt, and then Roman Dolidze was still on his leg, so he just turned that into a single leg, basically like a switch, and just ended up on top. Second round, Christian Leroy Duncan is styling on him, and Roman Dolidze keeps throwing spinning elbows. There was a ton of spinning elbows on this card. None of them landed with any significance other than one. Yeah, Dolidze looking horrible on the feet, keeps turning his back, keeps running away. But Christian Leroy Duncan, instead of just going out there and just punching him on the chin, which he ended up doing in the third round and working, he just kept throwing spinning shit, kept throwing flying knees. None of it was landing well. And yeah, he made the fight super close. Round 2 was clear. Round 1, pretty close. I think I gave it to Dolidze. And then round 3, also super close, even though Christian Leroy Duncan, again, just styling on Dolidze the whole time. And then he goes for spinning shit and doesn't land anything. And then he goes for flying knee and it misses. Actually, he threw a flying knee and it hit Roman Dolidze in the spine. As Roman Dolidze turned around to run away, he got hit with a flying knee in the spine, knocked him over. He ended up on top. And yeah, the third round, he ended up getting CLD's back and arguably winning the round. It was arguably 2-1 Dolidze, arguably 3-0 Duncan. One of those kind of fights. Duncan won the decision. Sure, I'll take the pick, right? But he looked fucking horrible. And he kind of has against Armen Petrosyan, kind of a similar thing where he was being too fancy. He did a lot of like capoeira, switching his hips and like going into bladed stances, then going bladed stances and feinting the spins a lot. And it looks cool, I guess, in a highlight if he gets a knockout right after. But if he doesn't, he just looks like a fucking idiot who's like losing the fight when he's clearly the way better fighter. Or maybe not way better, but he's definitely the better fighter in this matchup for sure. Danny Silva versus Curtis Campbell, interesting fight. Campbell, like Luke Riley, like Paddy Pimblett, like Shamrock, all those Liverpudlian guys, they have the same defensive flaw where they just keep their chin in the air. I don't even know if they're at the same gym. I think are they at Evolve? I don't know. But Curtis Campbell looked good. He looked really good with his grappling. He kind of gassed himself out by just pushing pretty hard, which is going to be a kind of an experience thing. A lot of good, or not good, but like the better fighters, once they get control against the fence, they'll take a breather, they'll wait a second, they'll wait to see their opponent's tendencies, and then they'll react with the grappling. Whereas Campbell would get him against the fence and then go for a takedown, and go for a trip, and go for a throw, and go for this. And it was working. He was winning the first round by doing it, and he actually looked pretty solid on the feet too. But it kind of gassed him out, and as soon as it left the grappling in the first round, you immediately saw that his defensive flaws, especially when he was backed up against the fence. He was dropping his hands. He was, reaching for stuff. His chin was way up in the air. And at the beginning of the third round, Danny Silva just put it on him. I think they had a quick little clinch exchange, and then he just knocked out, or he dropped Curtis Campbell with a big strike. And then he hurt him a couple more times and they stopped it. I think Campbell would have survived if the fight kept going, but I don't think it was a terrible stoppage. He did get basically dropped 3 times. And that's a pretty reasonable standing TKO. The crowd wasn't happy. Danny Silva wasn't happy. He flipped off the crowd. But I didn't hate the stoppage that much. I mean, Campbell seemed like he was pretty out of it. Like I said, I think he would have survived, but I don't know. I don't think most fighters would have survived, basically, is what I'm trying to say. Next fight on the card was Mason Jones versus Axel Sola. Great fight, really good fight. First round, Mason Jones is looking good on the feet. He's not the more technical guy, but he's staying on the switched on a lot more. He would throw a kick, and then Sola would back up, and then he would step into the opposite stance, and then throw a 1-2, and then step in the opposite stance and throw a lead hook. A lot of shit like that. Just standing right in front of Sola the whole time, and it was working. And then Sola's like, "Oh, you're an idiot! You're running right onto my spinning elbow." Throws a spinning elbow. How the fuck did Mason Jones survive this? It was a full power spinning elbow. He did the correct form, like the fucking thumb from his left shoulder to his right shoulder when he threw the spinning elbow. and landed with the point of the elbow right on the point of the chin, basically stapled his chin to his sternum. Mason Jones doesn't even get cut. Doesn't even get cut open. I guess you don't really get cut in your chin really often, but he gets dropped pretty bad. Axel follows up with some ground and pound, wins the rest of the round with the grappling. And then round 2 and 3, Mason Jones, the pressure, he started to gas a little bit, but he's still staying on Sola. And Sola doesn't land any big strikes for the rest of the fight. Honestly, besides the spinning elbow and the moments that happened immediately after the spinning elbow, wasn't a ton of success for Axel Sola. He was landing decent. It just he was landing at such a lower rate than Mason Jones. And Mason Jones just stayed on the whole time. Hurt him in round 3 with a head kick and some big punches, but looked really good. And so did Sola. I think both of them look like good fighters. I think this improved their stock. Great fight. Definitely should win fight of the night. Should be 100K for both of them. And we'll definitely see both of them later in the division, which I think is good, because Mason Jones has been cut off of the first time he was in the UFC. He lost to Ludwig Klein, and then he lost to Mike Davis by a really close, arguable robbery decision, and he got cut. But now he's going to be in the UFC for longer, so he's had 2 fight of the nights. Also, there's some thunder. It's going to start raining soon, so I'm going to try to get this done quick because I record these in my car. Next fight on the card was Nathaniel Wood versus Losen Keita. I thought Nathaniel Wood clearly won the first and second round. Losen Keita just not super active, I guess. Didn't throw a ton. He was landing. Actually, wasn't landing that well. A lot of the stuff he threw, it's weird. He throws a combo when he's leading, and it looks like the cleanest combo you've ever seen. It's like prime McGregor, lead uppercut, straight right follow through. He ends with a body kick. Everything looks textbook, super perfect. And then he throws in the counter. He looks horrible. Nathaniel Wood will miss, or he'll fall short with a punch, and Losen Keita will throw if you look up the video, worst punch ever, where it's that lady throwing that, she's doing the dishes and her husband or boyfriend or whatever tells her to throw a punch, and she throws the worst punch ever. It looks like that. That's the type of counter punches he was throwing, which is kind of wild because he looks so clean on the front foot. But it was a close fight. I just think Nathaniel Wood pretty clearly outstruck him in the first and second round. He definitely fought the better fight. But it was close because Losen Keita just has so much power and is so much more impactful with everything he throws. So yeah, good, solid fight. It wasn't super entertaining, but it was definitely some high-level stuff. We saw some interesting looks from Nathaniel Wood. It is thundering like crazy. It hasn't started raining yet, but it is thundering a lot, and it's getting really humid. So I'm going to wrap this up. Mario Pinto, Felipe Franco, shit fight. Pinto did not want to strike at all. He wanted to grapple, which I kind of get, but I feel like he definitely could have just chinned Franco. Franco opened up with a lot of big looping overhands. And one of them hit Pinto, and maybe he just said fuck it, I'm not getting hit by that again. Or he thought the takedowns would come easier. Because he was doing some crafty shit with his trips in the clinch. He looked pretty solid. But Franco, I think, is a grappler base. I think he's a jiu-jitsu guy. So it wasn't having a ton of success. But Franco looked like shit. I don't know why he's in the UFC. And Pinto looks about as decent as I thought. I thought he's fine, but not that great. I'll probably lose to a Tabora or someone like that. Next fight down the card. Montas Kondratovicius versus Antonio Tricoli. Another one where it's there's clearly a skill discrepancy. There's clearly a defined path for Kondratovicius to win, and he wouldn't do it. He would, anytime Tricoli would tie him up in the clinch, he was completely clueless. He would just try to make space and throw short elbows or short knees, and they're doing no damage. And then anytime they were at distance, he would throw a 1-2-3 or just a left hook right hand, and it would land right on the point of the chin every time, and it would hurt Tricoli. And then Tricoli would get dropped and stay on his butt, and instead of Kondratovicius letting him up so he can hurt him, he would just watch him and throw a couple kicks and maybe engage the grappling and then lose position. So yeah, I scored it, I think, 29-27. There was a 10-8, I think, in round 2 for Kondratovicius, and then you could argue round 3 for Tricoli. He was behind on the feet, but I think he got his back at one point. I don't know. But just a bad look from Kondratovicius. He clearly performed under his skill level. And I think a lot of people saw, I saw, when watching his fights before, he's not that good. It is understated how fucking quick he is in the feet. When he's throwing full power shots, he's really quick, but him throwing that full power for the whole first round just made him completely gassed by the end of the second. And Tricoli was, I think, a little bit better as far as just positional control and the grappling, and that just prevented him from getting a free win. So I think Tricoli's definitely earned a shot at Atiba Gauthier. I think that's the next fight to make. And then Kondratovicius can fight fucking Sharmagomedov or something, I don't know. He's going to lose his next fight, I think. Unless he gets a complete can. He gets Tristan Vines. Brandon Perchis versus Louis Sutherland. Louis Sutherland actually opened up looking not terrible. He was really going for it. He was throwing some big, meaty punches. A couple of them landing on the guard of Perchich, maybe, getting his attention a little bit. I think he shot a good takedown, but then Perchich ended up getting control. Sutherland hit what I call the jelly roll, which is basically where you just like it's kind of like octopus guard, where you just put your arm up against the torso and then you spin your whole body and then you use your arm to shove them off of you. And it worked, but then he immediately stood up and got kneed once and then dropped to his hands and knees and got TKO'd. So it didn't really work. Abdul Karim El Sawadi versus Shamrock. Honestly, I don't think Shamrock looked that bad. He had a lot of interesting looks, but the fight went basically how I thought it would. He's going to be a little behind in the feet, and he's not good enough to get takedowns against a guy who's as well-rounded as El Sawadi. So he's not going to be able to impose his one advantage in the fight. He ended up getting the back at one point, but he immediately fell off the top. And El Sawadi looked pretty solid, doing a lot of the Volkanovski-Poirier stuff where it's 1-2, or I'm sorry, he throws a straight right, switches stances in the southpaw, throws a 1-2, and it was working well. That was the smart thing to do. I'm surprised he didn't get the finish. I thought after the first round he might get a finish because he was landing on the chin a lot. But Shamrock could take a solid punch, and he actually landed a couple good kicks. His head kicks were looking good, as El Sawadi was dipping a lot when he's entering. Shamrock was throwing a lot of decent kicks. His hands looked fine. He didn't look as bad as I thought he would. He looked a lot better than he did against Evloev. But I think because a lot of people think Abdul Karim El Sawadi is shit because he lost to Loic Radzhabov, who a lot of MMA fans have never heard of because they don't watch the sport. They thought he was shit, so they thought Shamrock was even worse. But I honestly, I don't think he's that bad. I think he'd beat a lot of unranked guys. I think they should put him against Anshul Jabuli next. I think that's the next fight to make. And then the first fight of the card was Chanel Dyer versus Irene Oliveira. Didn't watch the first round, saw the finish in the second. Looked good. Irene Oliveira looks very chinny, but Chanel Dyer looks pretty solid. So that was the card. Yeah, the judging, the reffing was all mediocre. The fights were all mostly shit. Mason Jones versus Alex Sola kind of carried it. So let me just check the UFC's Instagram to see who they gave the awards to. I would bet that won Fight of the Night, and then maybe they gave a performance bonus to just like the people that got finishes. Oh, they haven't even announced the awards yet. So yeah, go check the post-fight to see who won the awards. I'm guessing Fight of the Night for Jones and Sola, and then I'm guessing Performance of the Night for like Chanel Dyer and Danny Silva, maybe Barniewski as well. I don't know. They'll probably get to Barniewski and Sola. All right, so that was UFC London. Pretty shit card. Hopefully on to better things next week. They had a really shitty AI promotion for UFC Seattle, which nothing really gets people hyped like a shitty AI video of Israel Adesanya, where he looks like he has Alex Pereira's tattoo on his back. How fucking bad the AI was. Yeah, that's the card. Let me know what you think of the card, or what you thought of my review or predictions or whatever. You can watch the prediction video if you haven't already. My predictions were pretty solid. I think I was pretty on the nose with how a lot of the fights would go. Yeah, I'll do a prediction for UFC Seattle. I'll probably do a recap of that too. Like the video, share the video, follow me on Twitter. I live tweeted the whole event, and I'll continue to tweet as fights go on this weekend. My bracket is busted, so I'm not going to be a billionaire, so I'm probably going to stick to doing this. But yeah, thank you for listening.